This is the meeting of the Cape Cod Gateway Airport Commission. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. It is 4 p.m. and we are meeting in the airport conference room at the Cape Cod Gateway Airport. The meeting of the Cape Cod Gateway Commission meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. And in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. I'm not seeing anyone, we will move to roll call.
Chairman Flores,
Here.
Vice Chair Gio,
Here.
Clerk Wild,
Here.
Commissioner Yarmouth is absent, Commissioner Bailey,
Here.
Commissioner DeGeorge,
Here.
and Yarmouth Rep.
Here.
Christine Riley.
If I could ask us to stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 4 on the agenda is to get approval of the minutes of the previous meetings dated September 17, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to look at those?
Yes, sir.
Any questions, any additions, deletions, any issues or concerns? Not hearing anyone, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Not hearing? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and vote. All right, next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment? And let me welcome Councilor Betty Lucky, who is the liaison from the Barnstable Town Council to the Cape Cod Gateway Airport Commission. Betty, the floor is yours.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I'm Town Councilor Betty Lucky. I'm the liaison to this commission, so that's in the capacity I'm speaking for my public comment. At our last meeting, Town Council meeting on Thursday, we had representatives from Joint Base Cape Cod in attendance, and I asked them if they would be interested in participating in a regional transportation study, and they were interested. And I know earlier this spring, you had voted to pursue that.
Correct.
And the town council has sent a letter to the Cape Cod Commission asking for their assistance in doing that. And we're looking at a broad scope. Certainly, I would think at least air and ferry, since those two are intertwined, I think, as you realize here, those two modes of mass transportation. And I think the timing is very good. You have your master planning done. You've just done your strategic planning. So I think the time is very good. I did have an offline conversation with Chairman Flores about this. And the tricky part is going to be finding the expertise to do the project, because it's not something that just any planning entity can do. And certainly the Cape Cod Commission has no expertise to do that, so they'll have to go outside. So that'll be the next step. So that's all I'm saying, just a comment in terms of where the council stands, and I think where we
Thank you,
stand on
Council.
that.
Appreciate that, and yes, we did vote a while back to support that as an endeavor. Besides trying to figure out who might be able to handle it for the town as a whole, the other issue, of course, would be the financing of it, the costs associated with it. So that's something to bear in mind. But we look forward to seeing if we can actually make that happen. So with that being said, any other responses to public comment from the council? Okay, not hearing any, we shall move on to reports from the subcommittees. First will be finance. Chairman Weil.
Good afternoon, everybody. The Cape Cod Gateway Airport Finance Subcommittee met via Zoom on October 8th, 2024. Commissioners Weil, Bailey, and Field were present. There was no old business. For new business, we discussed FIN 1024-1 to review and approve fiscal year 2025 option renewal on the on-call contract buying between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Pierce Cote for professional marketing and communication services. It was a very a detailed discussion that since it's going to be discussed as an item on the agenda here, I won't go into details at this point in time, other than we voted to move it to the full commission for discussion and potential approval today. We moved on to review and approve. This is for FIN 1024-2. Review and approve the contract amendment by and between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Airport Solution Group for professional engineering services for Reconstruct and then extend the Mary Dunn Way project. That will be discussed in detail at this meeting, so I won't go into the details at this time, other than it was voted to move this to the full commission meeting. We had a discussion as a result of some of the topics that we've been involved in about the whole process about how bills get paid. We approve bills, and we sometimes don't know the whole process that goes on after that. And it becomes a subject of concern, a way that commissions and the town, for in fact, get into trouble is when those processes fall apart. And we had a good discussion and left convinced that our processes that are in place are exemplary. We got updates that will be discussed at this meeting, so I won't go into those details other than to say that the meeting is adjourned at 9:24.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, next is the Infrastructure and Marketing Committee. Commissioner Chair on that is Commissioner DeGeorge.
Yes, the Infrastructure and Marketing Committee met on Tuesday, October 8th at 10:30. Commissioners DeGeorge, Bearworth were present. The meeting was held via Zoom. We didn't have any new business. Old business was the IN 0924-1 review and discuss website modifications, which Norm has just discussed and will be discussed at this meeting. Other than that, Katie went through a few of the updates, and I'm sure Matt will go through those later on in this meeting.
Okay.
Having no other business, the meeting was adjourned at 10:50.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, next on the agenda is old business, and there is no old business, so we'll move directly into item number 10, which is new business. I'll read the first motion, which is going to be COM 1024-1. This is going to be approval of the FY 2025 option renewal for the on-call contract by between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Pierce Cote in the amount of $72,000 for the professional marketing and communication services. This is the item that Commissioner Weil was referencing, so I would ask Vice Chair Gio to make this motion.
I would gladly make this motion. This is a motion to approve the FY 2025 option renewal for the on-call contract by between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Pierce Cote in the annual amount of $72,000. This amount to be revisited and reevaluated by the Finance Subcommittee after 6 months to determine impact and assess any additional needs.
Okay, this is an item that was sponsored by the Finance Subcommittee. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have the item read. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Any comments? Any questions? Not hearing any. I guess we can move the question and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's a vote. Thank you very much. And next on the agenda is COM 1024-2. This is approval of the contract amendment by between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Airport Solutions Group for professional engineering services for the reconstruction and extension of the Mary Dunn Way project in the amount of $12,638.02. Commissioner Bailey, would you make that motion, please?
COM 1024-2, excuse me. Motion to approve the contract amendment by and between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Airport Solutions Group for professional engineering services to reconstruct and extend Mary Dunn Way project in the amount of $12,638.02. Sponsors the Finance Subcommittee may be acted upon.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion, questions, concerns, issues? Not hearing any, I guess we can move this and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous, that's the vote. Okay, next item on the agenda is special reports. The first report is a noise report that takes us through October of 2024. And we have our noise report expert here, Christine Lansbury. Could you share with us what's going on?
I'm just gonna set it up.
Okay.
Um,
In your packets, you did receive the report and the number of issues or concerns.
So based on feedback from the commission at the July meeting, airport management has been working with Christina to make modifications to our noise program. Christina has provided and we're prepared and provided the new format report that takes into account the requests of the commission, such as including the tracking of overflights and military-related complaints. So during the July to September 2024 quarter, we received 48 complaints, and those were via phone, email, and even some in person. And Christina responded to each of those. Airport management has also been working with Cote to modify the airport website to include an easy button, if you will, a link on the website to our noise abatement page. And this will be designed to provide the community with quick access to the information and ensure the information is readily available to pilots visiting the airport. Based on commission feedback, we're also developing a flow chart that can be included so the public can see the process from when they call to what happens after there and follow that through. Further, we met with Vector, our flight system or flight tracking system provider, and we discussed some information we were looking for from them that we can add to the website so the community can feel confident in the data presented in our flight tracking system. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Christina to provide her new look quarterly noise report, after which I'll be happy to answer any questions with Christina's support.
Thank you.
Technical difficulty. Try that.
There you go. So our first slide is pretty much looking like what we've always had. It kind of goes over the first, the 3 months, July, August, and September, our third quarter for 2024. Break down the number of calls and complaints that we spoke with. We've also got comparisons looking at the third quarter for 2023 as well as year to date, and we also have the quarterly comparisons for each quarter for 2023. With this, in the month of July, from Barnstable, we had 1, Hyannis we had 1, and 19 from the town of Yarmouth. For August, Centerville we had 5, Dennis 1, Hyannis 2, and Yarmouth 10. And then rounding out with September, we had 7 from Centerville, 1 from Hyannis, and 1 from Yarmouth. After this, we're going to move forward into our statistical information. So the first thing we're looking at here is, first of all, everything is year to date as we do. These are the calls based on what area they're coming from, town or village. The next one we're looking at is the hours of the calls. So we have these broken down to exactly when the person experiences the disturbance, and this is also year to date. I'm sorry. Thank you.
To me, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can we just go back that one
Sure.
slide?
Oops, sorry.
So I'm just curious, I'm looking at periods here. The first period of measurement is a 5-hour period. The next period is a 1 hour. The next period is a 2 hour. And then the next period is, what's that, 14 hours? I'm just, it just seems like that's where all the meat is. Is there any thought about maybe breaking that down a little bit more?
So how we broke this down is it goes for a couple of different things. First thing we're looking at is quiet hours or non-quiet hours. So we know the quiet hours are 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So what I start with at the beginning is midnight until like almost 5 o'clock. So what we find is with any anything that comes either arrival, departure, that time, we look at that as like really core sleeping hours. People during this time frame are gonna be really disturbed, potentially woken up. The next thing we look at is 5 to 6. Well, why I broke it down to that is as we talked about previously, the airport commission, and we used to have an environmental subcommittee, worked with our tenants to remove 4 o'clock hour flights. And we look in the 5 o'clock hour, pretty much we've asked, and Cape Air always comes, does do this for us, is between 5 and 5:30 to limit or completely abstain. And we have great compliance with that. Between 5:30 and 6, they've agreed to 1 at the most 2 flights, depending on what's going on. It's not a guarantee. So that, in that little core there, we wanna make sure that they're compliant in what we're looking at as the community is being disturbed. Between 6 and 8, these aren't in our quiet hours. The reason that I put this together is what we find is a lot of people between 6 and 8 still feel like this is sleeping time and they're woken up, but again, it doesn't fall within there. The bulk of ours is from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. Those we consider like our regular business hours. So we're looking at when people are disturbed during regular business hours. And the last one encompasses the beginning of our quiet hours to midnight. Again, people will get disturbed in that time frame, but not everybody considers that like their core sleeping hours, as opposed to like midnight to 5, which is just like hardcore don't bother me.
Yeah, I was just curious as to whether or not there's any statistical value in looking at that 54 hours spread across in that period of time.
We can do that.
Only if you see something that
Right,
would
this kind of
suggest something.
evolved organically
Yeah.
because they're the hours that we address. And so Christina will say, the first time we looked at this picture, I asked the same question
Sure.
that you asked.
Yeah.
And then she explained how we got to the point where we tracked those specific numbers. And we said, okay, well, that's something we actually use, so let's put that there. But I think we could take a delve in there, maybe divide it in half, a morning and afternoon, and see. Right now, it's when we have the majority of the traffic during the day.
I'd be curious to know which are private airplanes versus scheduled airlines. Is there a differentiation that's substantial? You know, how many Cape Airs, how many JetBlues, how many versus Joe Q pilot?
Are you looking for the total
I'm just curious at the total.
or what does
Out of
it
the
go for
54.
complaints?
Or a combination of both?
Right, to
Be able
see of
tell
those
by
54,
hour,
how many.
who it is.
We can take a look, I mean, we have that information. The one challenge we have with Cape Air is not all of theirs are scheduled flights.
Right.
Some are training flights or repositions, but we can at least get it to,
Well, just
ones
to get a
that
sense of
operate
how
there.
that 54
With
breaks
your-
down.
we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I think, and if I'm following your thought, Mr. Chairman, I think it's like kind of tracking down who the entities are, right? Because one of the things we talked about in the strategic plan was to have community meetings with pilots where we could talk about noise abatement procedures, where we could talk about, you know, where the noise is coming in and discuss options on how to improve things. But if we don't know who's doing what when, then it's hard to target that conversation.
That's my point.
Yeah, I think we can easily show you that information. We can add that for next one, a graph that will show it. We do, when it is, when it's one of the tenants, especially Elise or Christina, Ryan, Katie, we'll reach out to them and engage with them. But what we can do is put together the picture that shows of these, the total number, which came from which area. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And in the preceding slide, I found it interesting that when we compared 23 to 24, we had less complaints in 23 during summer months versus than we have now. When we had that runway closed, is that because we added American Airlines? Is that?
Well, you'll see, don't spoil it.
Okay, sorry.
We will answer the question.
Okay.
I promise.
Just an observation.
So this one looks at the calls for disturbance, what we have for the entire year. And as you see, between May and September, we definitely have an increase. We have an increase in traffic. It makes sense. This kind of follows what we expect to see. This one looks at the same, but operations versus calls. So this tells us each month what our operations were and how many calls for disturbances we had. then this last one kind of looks at what Chairman Flores was alluding to. We've got each month, and I start with 24 and go to 23 because we're kind of in 24, and anyway, that's my brain, how my brain works with this. But kind of green to yellow. So as you see, we've had increased operations for sure. We added American Airlines, that's 2 flights a day. We have both runways open, and we had an incredibly great weather summer, which was awesome for everyone, and that, we had more air traffic as well. So you see, even like looking over to August, there's a huge jump. So I expect to see more noise complaints because we are operating more.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you probably haven't, but anything else?
Members of the commission, any other questions, concerns? Thank you, this is an excellent report. Okay, moving on, I guess that brings us to the Yarmouth representatives' comments. Christine, would you share with us your thoughts?
Yeah, I know last meeting, I'd asked whether or not there was any progress going on with taking a look at the flight patterns and things like that, the project, and I wondered if any progress has been made on that in terms of formation of the committee and things like that. Yeah.
Right now we are, Katie is reviewing the scope of work with the team to get started on that, so we're putting the group together. We have not finalized that group yet or picked a start date, but they're formalizing that now. Once the scope of work is agreed to, we'll get the full committee. I know you're a part of that and some other folks, certainly from the town of Yarmouth and then from the town of Barnstable.
Okay. The other thing is that when I wanted to look at the fair report, I did request a copy from, I don't know, Corinne, or I forget her name, from Epsilon, because when I went to the library, I found there was not a copy there. And I requested it, and they still don't have one. I checked in the library this afternoon because there really should be a copy in West Yarmouth, should be a copy at Town Hall in Yarmouth, and also in the libraries in Barnstable, because I know you've had complaints from both Barnstable Village, so Sturgis, and also from Hyannis, and so that should be down in the main library too.
So Matt, can we make sure those are included?
Yeah, so, but there've been no delivery. I said it mentioned last week, and you still, there's been no delivery.
We discussed that at a strategic planning.
Yeah.
We also discussed it before the strategic planning,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. It was raised, the exact same issue was raised, and we directed action to be taken about that.
Yeah, that's not happened.
We need
I
to
was
make
in the
sure it
library
actually
at 2:15 today to double check. I checked last week and then called Katie, the office, and then no. I have received, they sent it by FedEx, a copy to me.
Matt, make sure you get this done. You don't want the wrath of a retired teacher. She's checking to make sure.
School administrator is worse than a teacher,
administrator,
I
so
know how to
well
discipline
said.
both kids and staff.
We will make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other issues from the members of the commission? Okay, then we can move to updates.
Alright, updates. For the Hyannis Hangar LLC, we did talk last time about the fact that that hangar is up for sale. As of most recently, Airport Management has received a letter from the leaseholder that there are presently no existing tenants that are interested in purchasing the facility. We discussed this with both of the subcommittees, that the tenant was interested to see if the airport would be interested in buying the facility to prevent the hangar from potentially being removed. We had the ability to take title to that at the last lease renewal a few years ago. The airport decided not to do that at that time. We did not want to take on the maintenance responsibilities of another structure. So that's a little bit disingenuous, as was discussed at the subcommittee meetings. So Airport Manager Service has referred the letter to Anderson and Krieger for a response and to confirm the lease requirements so we can get the information in terms of exactly what can happen with the structure and what the lease requirements are, so we can bring that back to the commission.
The specific question I have is, do they have, I know they have threatened to tear the building down, do they actually have that right, the way we lease our properties?
That is what we are going to get the answer to.
Thank you.
So that is the status there. Obviously, we'll get the answer to that question and come back. Next, the monthly finance review, we talked about that at the finance subcommittee, and there'll be numbers submitted to that committee shortly. The strategic planning process, our 4 sessions are completed. The next step is the objectives and the task development. I thought it was a very good process. Unfortunately, I missed the last session while I was out of the office, but I don't know if Commissioner Eo has anything to say.
No, I'm just repeating myself from the sessions that I was very, very impressed with the number of people who participated from the community and the airport, and I was very impressed with how full out they played in the process. They really rolled up their sleeves, dug down, and did some great work. So thank you to all who participated.
I'd just like to take a moment to echo Vice Chairman Gio's thoughts. First and foremost, Mark, thank you for a job well done. You were an excellent facilitator, and I know the 4 groups that met at different locations during the course of the 5 weeks really did a tremendous job in terms of really embracing, engaging, and really coming up with a very good vision, mission, goals and objectives. And from that, now we'll be able to sort of strategize and plan where we're going to be going over the next X amount of years. And of course, we'll have to have indicators of success and timelines and metrics to make sure that we're staying on board. But I thought overall it was a good process, especially from the perspective that we weren't meeting for consecutive 8-hour or 6-hour sessions, which is normally the case. To come in for a couple of hours, then go away for a week, come in for a couple of hours, then come back. The commitment was really there. I mean, there was very, very little fall off in terms of attendance. So, and I know a number of people here in the audience, including Councilor Lucky and others, everybody came and really did I thought, a tremendous job. So hats off to a process that was overdue and one that I think will help guide us as an airport into the future. So with that being said, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Continuing along, the airline updates. This one is an exciting one. But American Airlines has indicated that they've been thrilled with the loads this past season. They're going to be expanding service next year. So they'll repeat with the daily service for 2025 from June 19th through Labor Day to DCA and to LaGuardia. They're going to add daily service in that time period to Philadelphia. And they're also going to add Chicago O'Hare service on Saturdays from June 21st to August 30th. The Chicago service is aimed to cater to leisure flyers. They added that service at both Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket during 2021, and they've seen success there. So based on the success they saw with what they tried here this year, they're anxious to see how that does, and we're very excited about that. So it's great news to see that they were happy and that they're growing and sustaining more. JetBlue, we're working on a modified lease for the terminal. They're due for a new lease. 2025 will be their 12th season. And Cape Air has a more robust winter schedule, and they've included the JFK daily flights through February. They picked those up when JetBlue service stopped to keep that connectivity for the community. It was going to be the shoulder season, and they're going to bring that right in through the heart of the winter. So that's excellent for the community here.
Matt, as we move forward, I know that you and Katie, especially Katie, she goes to these conferences where they have this speed dating kind of procedure where you basically make a pitch for what it is that we want. I would encourage us as a commission as well as management to encourage American Airlines as well as JetBlue to see if in fact they could actually make this a year-round process, perhaps not as many flights during the fall and the spring and the winter as they have in the summer, but perhaps maybe one day a week we could have a flight that went from here to JFK or from here to DCA. So folks who are snowbirds or folks who like to travel for parts of wherever during the course of the off-summer season, which is the bulk of their revenue generating season, might be able to make that happen. That'd be great.
Absolutely, we will include that. We've pitched adding shoulders and year-round at some less than daily interval, and we'll keep up that.
Yeah, maybe Wednesdays, JetBlue comes in, and on Thursdays, American comes in.
That would be nice.
That'd be great.
For the electric aviation update, really the update there, the smart grid program, we continue to work with MassDOT and their consultant on this. We're presently kind of in the latter stages of evaluating a couple of the more refined options and preparing for a second phase. And so the commissioners should expect at a future commission meeting the project team to come back and give kind of an abridged briefing The one that we saw last time was kind of the whole start. This will be a shorter version that updates on the progress that's been made since that briefing, just to be conscious of time, but they'd be able to answer any questions at that time. Moving to WS Development.
Before we leave that,
Oh, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to comment on Archer. Archer opened up a regulatory office in Washington DC across the street from FAA, and I was invited to their reception for the opening of that office. And I was able to speak with Captain Billy Nolan, who was the former FAA administrator before Mike Whitaker came in, and he is now their chief legislative officer, regulatory officer. And he is going to set up a meeting with the folks who will be on the operational arm of Archer to discuss the possibilities here at the airport. And I will keep you guys updated as I hear more.
Thank you, Mark, for following up on that as we had discussed. It's good news.
That's excellent. For the WS Development, the Whole Foods grocery store opened on Thursday. So drive by, take a look. It looks a little different. There's a lot of life in the plaza, which is excellent. I went over the weekend, and it really is incredible to see the difference that the life brings. So the work on phase 1 continues. You'll notice that there is still improvements underway, but I recommend everyone go and take a look at that and really see the vitality of the space now. It's excellent. With that, I'll ask Chris to update on a couple of the projects.
Thanks, Matt. I'll make this very brief. The first project I'll talk about is the Tower HVAC project. We're in the process of rescoping that. We're looking to save some costs different ways, value engineering a few things. I expect to get a report back from the engineers on that in the next 2 weeks. The other piece of that is we're going through an OPM selection to go through. We received some bids for an OPM for that project, and we're evaluating those firms, and we'll be reaching out to them to set up interviews probably in the next 3 weeks.
Chris, for the sake of our audience watching, OPM means?
It's the owner, it's basically the owner's rep for a project to represent the airport in the daily construction activities of a vertical project.
So just to follow on, Mr. Chairman, what we're selecting here is a project manager for the work.
Correct.
Which may not necessarily be the company that's doing the work.
They will be separate companies.
Separate
without a
companies,
doubt.
right, okay, thank you.
And then the last project that I'll speak of is on the RF Ops building. We're doing a project to redo the floor drains. We've received a 60% design on that. Matt and I met with the engineers, gave some comments. We expect another probably 2 to 3 weeks before we get to 90%, maybe a little bit longer on that. And that's the floor drains of the RF SRE building. So, any questions for any of the projects I covered?
Just a comment on the HVAC procedure. So you're in the process of preparing the specs for the bid, then we're gonna give that to procurement at Town Hall and then send that out.
So we already sent out bids.
We already did send it.
We received filed sub bids in and one for a general contractor. The numbers came in extremely high.
That's why we're
So now we're rescoping.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna adjust the scope of the project and then rebid.
gonna rebid it.
Yeah.
And what is the timetable for that?
I think we'll probably go out to rebid at the earliest middle of November.
So if Company A or Company B, who might be watching this, wanted to get a copy of that RFP, it would be on the town's website in November, probably, or December,
Yes, sir.
with return probably, what, January or?
Probably mid to late January because we'll have to go do file sub bids as well as the general contractor.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And can I just ask then, with the
Yes.
flight departure procedure analysis, you basically updated that already?
Yes, that was the one that I mentioned, the scope of work,
Okay.
right?
Who's the team who's working on that you mentioned?
It'll be through Airport Solutions Group, and they, as part of their contract, use some Aviation that has expertise in those departure procedure development.
Okay. Thank you.
For the airport environmental assessment status, I will ensure that copies are delivered to the libraries and town
Thank you.
halls. We follow this up. The final environmental impact report has been formally submitted to the MEPA office. The report was noticed, published on October 9th, 2024. Public comments are due November 8th, 2024, and we would anticipate that the certificate will be issued on November 15th. Written comments may be filed during the comment period. Those are gonna go to the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. The information on that, for anyone that would like to comment, they should look at the final environmental impact report for specific details. In terms of PFAS and the public involvement plan and update, our next status report is this month. That'll be going in shortly. And our next public informational meeting will be November of 2024. The goal there will be to work with the Barnstable Fire Training Academy so that we have one place where the public can go to learn about PFAS and ask their questions. Next up, the full-scale exercise summary. That was an excellent event. The airport is very proud of that. We had 250 participants from 41 agencies and entities. Our next step is to develop our after-action report and improvement plan. Once that's finalized, it'll be shared with the commission. That takes about 6 months to prepare. It's a very robust document. We had a lot of feedback from the exercise. We brought in 10 different evaluators who were evaluating different parts of it based on objectives that were set out by the planning team based on priorities of the organizations, Barnstable Police, Hyannis Fire, and the airport. So we're going over those now. We received over 100 participant surveys from folks that were controllers, participants, actors. All of those comments are going over. We had some industry peers that were there, folks from Massport and the Martha's Vineyard Airport that came over just to observe and see. The feedback that we got there was that we are very robust in what we do here, which was excellent. And probably the most important was our FAA inspector was here for the first time in a long time to observe one of these. And he had no constructive criticism, just the fact that it was excellent. The only thing that he noted was he could not hear the communications, but to his own admission, there's no reason that he would because he wasn't one of those people. But that everything that he observed was what would be expected, and that our drill design was far more comprehensive than what you would anticipate seeing. So everyone was very proud of that. And if you'd like, I can show you a brief clip from the Barnstable Police Department drone. Christina's husband, Matt, was here operating the drone and captured it, but I think it gives, is that okay?
Please do.
It gives an overview of what you saw. So this is a still image, and just to point out, you're going to see kind of 4 areas. This is triage, so you'll see ambulances staged up here. We used a Wiggins aircraft to stage our 45 victims around. We had 3 large fires going here. These are Connex boxes that were set up as fuselage simulators with road seating, with mannequins, and some other objectives like a black box that folks had to go in and find. And then just off of this image is an extrication station where the responders had to use their tools. This is the same image but with a FLIR camera, so you can see the heat coming off of those. And the video is here. We always record the opening here, so, and I promise it happens in real time a lot faster than the drone view, because every time I watch one of these, I'm like, boy, I feel like it went really fast when the fire engine went past us, but it takes a second. But what you'll see is we actually start with our first ARF responders in their office. They'll get into the truck and go, and then everyone is staged behind that building where you can't see them, and they'll come in waves. And so this really kicks off the start, and we're actually running a stopwatch at this point.
Right.
We have a requirement to make it to the midpoint of the furthest runway by 3 minutes, so we always time this. We were 1 minute and 26 seconds, so well done there. And obviously there's a couple of other things that you don't normally have when you're responding in the middle of the airport. We had a lot of observers standing there. We wanted to make sure everyone was safe, so they weren't exactly doing the highest speed. But you'll see them come around, make the initial attack, and then it zooms out and you'll see all of the mutual aid folks. We had various observer locations. You'll see there's one kind of there on the corner. There's another one here where these folks are. We had A-frame signs, stanchion cones, just to keep everyone safe. And the folks you see on the periphery are our safety controllers. They're going to start an application of water only, and they'll work on putting the fire, knocking it down, and then the mutual aid companies will come in and use hand lines to supplement, and then they come through all the pieces.
So it was water only, there wasn't
Correct.
PFAS or anything involved?
We only use water.
Okay, thank you.
And that's in all of our planning meetings, all of our documentation.
Thank you.
As we go through this, all of the pieces are done, and then it's the actors go. So we're testing our actual response in a coordinated method. The benefit that our airport has is all of the mutual aid agencies on Cape Cod work together closely on a lot of things that have nothing to do with the airports. So there's very good foundations there. And then when we're involved, we're the benefit of that. We work very well with Hyannis Fire and Barnstable Police, and our FAA inspector noted specifically that piece. I'm going to fast forward because of the white that you see. So as you see here, they're coming up and they're not going at the fastest rate of speed because we simulated our time response with the fire truck. But these are the companies that are going to come in and add to what's happening. And you'll see them position and pull hand lines as we go. And then up here you see the ambulances staging, and then we triage. So all of those pieces go. We actually transported 10 folks to Hyannis Hospital, to Cape Cod Hospital in Hyannis. They went through their own exercise because we were doing ours, which was great because they got to exercise their own pieces. So the 250 folks that participated were here at the airport. Beyond that, there were a number of folks that participated at the hospital. Boston MedFlight ran their own exercise, keyed off of ours, all because we were doing this. So it was a large coordinated effort, and at the same time, this was leveraged not just to meet our requirements, do the training that we need, but Hyannis Fire was able to test some new technology. That technology was piped into command, so the command folks throughout this exercise had aerial view from a drone. They had another PTZ camera that was set up in the activity field that they could control, and then they were getting live update tracking of all of the patient status through an app called Peak Response that they were testing out. And all of those pieces were part of the actual command group that they worked through. So it was a very robust exercise. And again, we are very proud and thankful for all of the members of the airport who participated. And then lastly,
Before you move on, just a comment and an observation. Having attended this for the second time, the first one was 3 years ago, which was well organized, well structured, as was this. And Matt, I want to commend you as the point person for the overall planning and implementation that goes into this, because you're really this is really organized chaos. Is really what it is. And I, along with former Commissioner Griffin, we were observers. We stayed there for the entirety, and really were impressed with the different stations, the different sets of responsibilities, and the incredible teamwork and cooperative effort between and amongst the various entities, from our own Hyannis Fire Station, Barnstable, our own ops here at the airport, coupled with all of the other organizations that were involved. It was a really incredible job, well done. So I'm happy that it went as well as it did. I'm anxious to see the report when it does come out, as I'm sure you are. Really, overall, it shows that we're well prepared and we think ahead, and we're in very good shape after this observation.
I appreciate that, and we do. Thank you, but we have a very robust planning team that did that work. I just get to manage that team. But Chris and Christina here, Brad Everson, our ARF coordinator, and the representatives from Hyannis Fire, Barnstable Police, American Red Cross, Cape Cod Hospital, really put that together. But we started this in January, planning. And I want to say we probably made it to about 50 planning meetings by the time the exercise actually occurred.
Sure.
And so organized chaos is a great way to describe it. We set up a framework, and then the participants get to go, and they can take it any which way they want to go. We have various injects that guide them, make sure we meet our objectives. But we will have a robust and comprehensive report, and that's designed really to guide us until the next one. So the idea is, in that improvement plan, you're going to see things that we should not really even do for 2 more years that have to be done, but they have to be queued. Certain things, A and B have to happen before G and H and I, and so it's going to take us through the next one of these, and that'll come through that.
Yeah, I would just like to make a general comment that's for people listening and people in the audience, that your team and the team at the airport regularly gets high marks from the outside on the work that gets done. The FAA and TSA in particular think highly, and we regularly get reports, regularly considered a site to look to for potential partnering. I think of the baggage screening, remote baggage screening from TSA FAA always impressed with the work that gets done here. Security with the highest marks that you can get. And then you started out the remarks about the Hyannis hangar. The blue building there is the Hyannis hangar, for those who might not have seen it. So,
Thank you.
No.
If I could ask a follow-up question, where was the command post?
The command post, there were actually two. Initial command occurred just beyond here. It was here in an informal setting. It was the initial officer from Hyannis Fire and our operations officer. And then at about an hour into the exercise, we transitioned to a unified command.
Right.
And we brought over the Barnstable Police Command. That was located at the RFSRE building.
Okay.
So set back at the other end of the ramp.
Would it be possible next year, or not next year, the next exercise, that we invite the FAA observer into the command post?
Yes, the FAA inspector.
Yeah.
They were there this time.
Oh, they were?
Yes.
They were in the communications?
No, well, what they were saying is in the drill field. So as they were walking around, there was no way for them to know what the communications were.
Oh, I see.
When they were at command, they were able to do
They
it.
heard
Or
everything.
his exact words were, if I stood next to someone, I could hear it.
Right,
But
yeah.
when I was over here, I had no way to hear it. And so, initially I was writing that down as something to address.
Everyone needs a radio.
Right, and I said, well, what we'd probably do is for the evaluators,
Sure.
give them
Sure.
a way to hear it.
Sure,
So
yeah.
we could extend that for
Yeah.
the FAA inspector. It's rare that they come to those, so we were very happy to have them, but we would certainly do that for them in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sure.
Yeah, once again, I thought it was well done, and I think the metric that we use is one of excellence here at Cape Cod Gateway Airport, so I think once again, we fulfilled that towards that end. I want to thank the entire team, everybody involved, not only those who are immediately here at Cape Cod Gateway Airport, but the Red Cross, the kids from the drama club who were actually the patients, et cetera, so hats off to everybody.
We did have some great actors. And our last item on updates is upcoming events. Katie's been working diligently on this, but our 4th annual Southeastern Massachusetts Aviation Career Fair is coming up. Right now, we have 30 exhibitors signed up and 425 students, so that'll make it one of, if not the largest, one of the largest. So we're getting close to that. That's a week from this Thursday. That's for high school students, and we'll have exhibitors here in the terminal, and then we'll have static display out on the apron of all areas of aviation, whether it's airports, aviation planners, flight operators, equipment operators that support aviation, all of those things. So we're really looking forward to that. So updates.
Okay, any other questions or issues or concerns from any members of the commission before we move on? Okay, next on the agenda is item number 10. These are announcements from any members of the airport commission. Does anyone have anything they want to announce? Okay. Not hearing anyone. There are no matters that were not reasonably anticipated by the chair, so we shall move to adjournment. Our next meeting will be on November 19, 2024. Same place, same station, so I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all. It was an excellent meeting.
Let me congratulate you.